your Daily Game Face. I am Dr. Kim Lannon, and I'm here with Lou, the shoe-in.
The shoe-in?
Yeah, well, I was going to say Lou the shoe, but then I was like, no, that would be weird. So I was like, the shoe-in. And we're back in studio this week because there is definitely air conditioning working.
Oh, yeah.
We are freezer box today. So I went
this is good news because I thought management was just being cheap before.
As he says that online. Yes.
But it was air conditioning didn't work well.
Well, we knew that. It was struggling last year, remember?
I just thought they kept it high because we're about the only people on the second floor here. So.
Oh, except for the people that come up and use my bathroom.
Yeah. It's not your bathroom.
It is on Wednesday mornings. It is.
Although I've complained about this all the time. You got to keep the bathroom free at the top of the hour. You got to in radio and
because people have to go.
Yeah.
Because this is what we have to do before we get on air. Yeah. Anyway, good morning.
Good morning.
And this is lovely to be back in. I was just saying to you that I just had a few days away because I ran the Loon Mountain race.
I saw
Did you see?
Yeah.
I ran it again this year, and it was spectacular.
Yeah.
It was a spectacular race day. The weather, well, usually it's a blazing, beating down death race. And depends on what you rate. It's the hardest mountain race in the country. It's the hardest mountain race in the Northeast. So whichever. The point being is it's a hard race. It's 6 miles and change, all uphill. And the last little bit.
Well, uphill isn't quite saying it.
Yeah.
It's a mountain.
Yes. The last little bit is called Upper Walking Boss. And it's Walking Boss for a reason. And so someone that is a listener here had written on my thing saying, you're supposed to be running. I said, 5 miles back. It was in my head. I was running. Yeah. But there's a reason why it's called Walking Boss. Because it should be called Crawling. It's not even roll. It's crawling, like scraping your way up the side
race.
of the,
it's actually an insane event.
It is an insane event, and it was very cool. So if you're on my social media for my promotions of all my business stuff, you would see it, or you'll see on my TikTok the finish. But it was beautiful, and I ate myself a fair amount of lovely wild strawberries that are no better than anything else you can have because you couldn't grow them to taste like that if you tried.
Really?
And I felt bad taking them away from the bears, but then I didn't feel that bad. So, when your nose is practically to that level because you're on such an angle, it's hard to miss them. So I just kept grabbing them and eating them.
Screw the bears.
And there were people around me going, are you eating the strawberries? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. I'm like, yeah, I'm enjoying this. If I'm going to race this, I'm going to eat these. So it was good.
Nice.
But it was a lovely day. And I got to do it with a friend of mine who's here from Bosnia. He works here and he's getting ready to go back to Bosnia because his H-1 visa ends. And we ran it together, and I told him about it, and he, as he would put it, foolishly signed up for it, not knowing. And then he caught up to me about mile 5 1/4 and came up behind me and was like, ugh.
Without knowing, he just said, I'll do that.
Well, yeah, I kept trying to warn him. He read the website, but he didn't. And he lives right there. He lives across the street from this race.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I kept telling him to practice on the mountain, and he didn't. But he's a very good runner. He did it in an exceptional time.
Yeah, really.
So I told him that if he had practiced on the mountain, he probably could have gotten close to winning. Or, because I wasn't there to win. But it was really good, and I was excited, and I didn't have any of my previous gallbladder issues that gave me the feelings like I was having a heart attack. I didn't have any of that stuff going on. So it was really good. So I love this.
Running up a mountain in New Hampshire in July.
Yes.
It's insane.
Yes. And it was humid, but it was not really hot on the day of the race. Yesterday, however, up there was blazing like it is today. It's like 100 degrees. Yeah. It is warmish. So in the day before, like the whole weekend from Saturday on was just warmish, but it definitely got to be what it is right now. It's 94 degrees out currently. Yes. But what I was going to say is there's a definite, you know how I do road races and then mountain races, right?
Yep.
Road racing people are very different than mountain racing people. It's a very different ilk. And so, And what I find about road racers is obviously there's a lot more road racers. I don't know this. This is anecdotal. This is coming out of my butt. But I think that there's a lot more road racers because people can go out and just run the road, right?
Yep.
But when you're going to go do a mountain and a trail mountain / race, well, you bring a whole different game and a different mindset. And not different in like that it's like completely opposite, but it's just you have a very different mindset of how to manifest yourself through this whole thing. The other thing about this race, and I'm not sure if it's the same for other ones too, but I think for the most part it is, when you're in that race, the mind blower for many people I tell about this, they're like, well, where's your medal? And there's no medal. There's nothing at the end other than the fact that you accomplished Upper Walking Boss and it didn't eat you alive and you didn't cry. Although one man told me on my way up that he had finished and he doesn't remember how fast he went. He just knows that he got through the crying. And I said, there's no crying on the mountain. That's what I said. There's no crying on the mountain. But there's no medal. So people are like, why would you do it? And here's the thing is, I'd love to have a medal. I always put the recommend for 10 years. I've been putting in, you guys should have a medal because there's only 500 and some odd people that do this race between the men and women. And I was like, there should be a medal. There absolutely should be a medal. But there never is. So I'm going to write to them again and say, even a little one or something. But at the end of the day, it's really about
you accomplishing something.
You're just accomplishing the fact that you run this crazy hard race and you are pretty much, I mean, I'm sort of the middle of the packer. So I'm with a lot of people the whole time. So I'm never without people chattering and talking about like, what the F am I doing? Why am I on this mountain? What did I sign up for?
500 people run this race?
Yeah. This year was 550 or something. Yeah.
The marathoners are impaired. Mountain runners are insane.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Especially for this particular mountain race. Yep. It is quite the race. And it's not like it's a big payout either. The pot for the finishers is not like stupendous. I mean, I'm talking like the whole pot is like $1,500 for all the winners. And then they get a nice little plaque that actually this year was the first time I saw the Upper Walking Boss as a plaque. And I already own one of those. Like that's like my favorite thing in one of my rooms in my house is I have this big long, wooden thing that says for the ski trail, Upper Walking Boss. Yeah. And I just laugh when people are like, Upper Walking Boss, I'm going to run it. And I'm like, you're walking it. I'm telling you, you're walking it. There's no run. Yeah. So I have never seen the winner because I'm always behind them. So I've never seen what they look like. I imagine that they're slightly running. Yeah. But the winner was like in an hour. One was like 58 minutes or something. And the other one was like an hour and 3.
How many practice runs? How many practice visits do you make?
This year I only made one because I was short on time, but I train on a different mountain beforehand. But in years gone by, and I do 3 or 4, sometimes 5. I start at like May, when the snow leaves, because there's usually snow still. Yeah. So when the snow leaves, then I start. But I use other mountains that are closer by. But it was fabulous. It was a beautiful weekend. I saw lots of great people. I had great food, which you saw. Did you see my food?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You could have that food too if you went to the place that I've showed you to go to.
Yeah. I've been there.
Oh, I thought you hadn't gone yet.
No, I've been there.
Oh, that's right. You did finally go.
Well, it's tough finding a time it's open when I'm there because
I know you don't go on normal times.
It's a small town. And they're half closed half the time.
They're open Thursday, Friday,
No,
Saturday,
I meant the town in general.
Oh, yeah. No, partial town is open, closed on Mondays because it's not as peak. But this week has been flooring. So it's weird because now I'm back, and I feel like wow. I looked at John yesterday. I said, I think I need a vacation. He goes, oh, did you get a little bug? Because I haven't, me, I haven't taken it, because I'm so busy, and I have time for my emergencies because I work so many hours as a woman. That
really landed with you, didn't it?
Oh man, it's really well because I have had conversations about this. I think it was a sexist question. I do. I really do because no one would ask a man that. Like, how do you if you have kids and you have a job, how do you find time for emergencies? I don't know. You just do. If it's an emergency, you move things. Hello.
Who has time for emergencies?
Well, you don't have time for them, but you make time because hence the emergency.
Yes.
Right. I mean, you don't plan for them.
No
They
one's
just,
saying I'm bored. I need an emergency.
right. So, or
Yeah.
and no one's saying that if there's an emergency, people can't be flexible and move. That
Yeah.
happens all the time. So anyway, yes, it landed on me. It landed on me as a inappropriate question.
Let it go. Set it down.
Well, I'm trying to let it go.
Set it down.
I've set it down. Set it down. Let it go.
Yep.
Anyway.
Take it out of the backpack.
Okay. We got all the metaphors going.
Yep.
Well, anyway, as you know, we're working on the year of me and the year of you and everybody's year of whatever. And, if you're having a lot of stress, and here we are at the halfway mark, we're a little over the halfway mark of the year, just barely.
Yep.
What is today? July 16th? Yes, it is. July 16th. Wow. I'm going to be morbid. Tomorrow is my grandmother's 22nd death date.
Okay.
I know.
Never heard it expressed that way.
I know. It's also my husband's father's birthday, but he's also passed. And it's Mary and Caitlin, my lovely friends.
Where do you get cards for that?
Do I get cards for that?
No, where do you get cards for that?
Sorry
is
about
that CVS or is that
Hallmark? I'm sure Hallmark makes one. I remember those things. People all remember those things. The other day was the passing of the friend that I always talk about, Billy. It was 4 years on Monday. 4 years that he had a heart attack and died in my house. We talked about it.
This has been an upbeat show.
It is an upbeat show. Well, it's July, so we're at the hump month. So anyway, but I was going to talk about today. Did you have something to talk about, Lou?
No.
I'm just going to jump right in. I'm just moving along. I have to keep moving because if I don't, those thoughts come up and you bite you in the butt.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you're supposed to know how to deal with those.
I
things.
do. Okay. That's right.
Keep moving.
What?
Avoid them.
You
technique?
You avoid them? That's awesome.
I don't avoid them.
Oh. Well, so what I thought, I would be on a really happy note today because I figured I have to, we've done summer. We're in summer, so I don't need to focus on summer. But what I thought I'd go back to is much more of a clinical, I'm itching because I was out in the sun yesterday. Sorry. I'm itching.
And it's cold.
And I'm freezing. So, but what I thought I'd go back to is people love it when I do, at least they tell me, they love it when I do the clinical, like really clinical technical shows a lot of the times about like an issue. And I haven't done one specifically in a while. Oh, Renee says avoidance sounds like my thing. Renee, that's not what we do. Avoidance is a no. No avoidance.
How about ignoring?
Ignoring is just a lighter word for avoidance.
Exactly.
So what I thought I would talk about today, get ready for this topic that I've been prepping for because I've had time to think and write. Hi, Renee. Is we will be talking about the things that are normal that you think in your life are normal that are actually abusive.
Oh.
But you didn't expect that one.
Another upbeat topic.
Well, psychology isn't always upbeat.
Yeah.
We try to get to the places where we're upbeat, but we have to be able to really look at the things that are, that are out there, right? So I have compiled a list of my things that could get greater than, and we might not get them all, but I worked diligently on this because when I have time on my hands.
Talk about our friendship, is it? Basically what we're talking about here.
Are you saying our friendship is abusive?
Normal. I don't know.
It seems normal, but it's abusive? Wow.
I don't know.
I didn't realize that was going to come up.
Got to find out.
Wow. Swords up. Shoot. I would never have even thought that. But now that you put that, I've let go of the other thing you told me to let go of. And now I'll hang on to that for another year. So now I'm going to be obsessing about we're not friends. Good. I'm fine. No, fine. We're not friends. I don't want to be friends with you anyway.
I did not say that.
Well, you are in a professional role with me, so we wouldn't have a boundary cross. Good Lord. Okay. So in the month of you, but really in particular in the year of you, we do go through life a lot of times thinking that things are really normal. Why? Because we've normalized them. We've defaulted to the fact that that's a normal thing when you hear that, or you think that, or you see that, or someone says these things. So as I was sitting very casually this weekend in my thoughts and thinking, I was thinking, oh my God, there's some things that, I thought about that I think are important to talk about. So, here's the top one. So, constant criticism being disguised as just someone saying, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
So if someone's truth always tears you down, it's not honesty, it's harm. So how do you build your self-worth? So I talked about this in my class last week, which is what started me thinking about it. I was saying like, there's being honest and then there's being mean.
Yep.
And I know people in my growing up years that would say, there's a person, I won't name them, there's a person who would yell. And then when they were told not to yell because that made them abusing or it was abusive, or I don't remember what, I was young, so I don't remember what the words were. The person stopped yelling and they would say, I'm not yelling, I'm just being honest. And it always stuck with me because when people say it now, 30 years of practice, I hear people saying things like, because they're not yelling, but I giggle in my head with my own little head bubble thing, and then I think, but they'll say, I'm just telling the truth and the facts. And there's nothing wrong with telling the truth and facts. It's how you deliver it. It's the approach of how you deliver it. There's nothing wrong with saying your truth or your facts, as much as they might be hurtful, but they become abusive when if you're yelling and you're still saying the mean things and you're saying them as facts, you're still being abusive. Because if you use the words, I'm just being honest, or these are the facts, that doesn't exonerate you from the fact that you're maybe possibly hurting somebody or harming them.
Yeah.
And it's not about hurting someone's feelings, because sometimes facts hurt or truth hurts, but it's also in the delivery. You don't just say things that are just going to annihilate the person. So when I was contemplating my list of things to talk about how to make your July a better you, is do you have people around you that just say truthful, honest, authentic things that are genuine and they do it in a loving way? Or do they criticize you by belittling you or mocking you or saying things, well, it's true? Or and the other side of this, and this is the other side of the conundrum, is oftentimes people's perception is their default, which is also skewed. So you have a lot of people that will automatically read that criticism, which is actually just feedback, is being negative, when in fact it really isn't. And they're doing it to them. They're doing it to themselves. So you got to figure out which camp you're in about, is it really truthfully being someone is attacking you and coming at you, or are you perceiving it? So for instance, if I said to someone, your behavior or what you just said was abusive, or what you just did was narcissistic, or what I know people that will turn around and say, you called me a narcissist. You said I was abusive. And I'm like, no, I said the behavior is that of a narcissist. Your behavior is that of someone who's belittling. That behavior is being mean. But people automatically translate it. And I think that comes from exactly what I'm talking about, is that it's so natural for people to automatically think that they're pigeonholed into being this thing, that instead of hearing what's actually said, they go into that because they're so heavily criticized.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is a related question. It seems like it'd be important to this list.
Yeah.
Is a person being abusive if they are not intending to be abusive? In other words, people are raised differently, right?
Yes.
If you're in a large family with 5 siblings, these interactions were handled differently than someone else who was an only child or 2 child. Some houses were kind of loving, and people knew how to approach each other with their criticisms. And in other houses, it was just
I don't think it's
throwing axes at each other.
I don't think it's a number and size. That's why you just saw my eye roll, right? Because
just some family interactions are different. You may be dealing with somebody whose family interactions, that was kind of normal for them. That was kind of the way the family.
Well, but that's the thing, is that was to the point of the family interaction makes it normal, but does that make it healthy and correct? No. So the intent, I say this to clients a lot. I do the whole, Your Honor, I didn't mean to kill them. I just meant to stab them and have them bleed a little bit so they could see that it hurt, but they died. So I always use that with clients, which I get a good chuckle out of, for the most part, unless someone doesn't understand the concept. But it's the intention behind it. Yes, certainly people don't intend all the time to be in the abusive range or into the, or even the, let's use a lesser word, the toxic or negative space. They are just so used to doing that tactic. That's
Often
their
their family
style.
dynamic.
That's from
Yeah.
their family dynamic.
Yeah.
But that is the thing that has to change, because yes. So to that point, I know many people who come to me and in my personal life that use their family dynamic of, well, I didn't intentionally do that. That wasn't my intention. Great. That wasn't your intention, but you continue to use that tactic, that technique. That's the same thing. It's a tone, or it's a delivery method, or it's in the auspice of, I'm just trying to be honest. Okay. But you're still doing the same thing. And then they'll say, I'm sorry, it wasn't my intention. And therefore you're supposed to accept the apology while they're still doing the same behavior, because they don't change it, because the dynamic is so rooted into what you just said about that's the family. So it's made it normal. It's made it natural. It's made it what it's supposed to be, because that's what they think it is, but that is not the way it is. And I mean, geez, I think most of us out here who have jobs in this field in general, in like my field across the board, have that job because of that reason, because so many people have that. You grow up in a house, whether you're the only child or 5 children, and you're dynamic, and you come into another relationship or other friendships or other things, and you just bring that there, and you just automatically think that's normal. And when someone has a kickback and goes, hey, you don't get to talk to me like that, or hey, you don't get to say those things, and that's not nice, or that's really not a great way to deliver that message, you often will get that kickback in couples. You'll get that in friendships. You'll get that in sometimes even in business relationships of, wait a second, that is not how we go. But like when I'm teaching the family and group dynamic class that I'm teaching this summer, I talk a lot about how families just treat us into a way of teaching us how to be in certain roles, and then we go and reproduce them all the time. We call it recapitulating the family of origin issues. Say that 5 times fast. So recapitulating the family of origin issues, which is, well, it was just what was said to me, and this is how we responded. So this is how we do it. And doesn't everybody do it?
Exactly. This
Right?
is how a loving family does it.
Right. And we use the word loving loosely.
Yeah.
Because that's not loving. And so to the point of that first example.
And to your point, the other way around is often extreme too, especially nowadays with young kids.
Yes.
Like any criticism that they take is, you might as well be stabbing them.
Right. Because they can't handle it, because everything has been so like kid gloved with, well, I think we've gone away from the whole like inside voices and like, let's use, we're somewhere.
They're calling DCF. You criticize them and they're calling DCF.
Well, now, yes, now we've got that. Or like if you say anything, like, that's yes. Yeah. So, okay. So there's my first point. Okay. The next one that comes to mind is when people use silent treatment. So silence is great as a technique in terms of like sitting with someone in therapy, because silence has a lot of space for you learn a lot about people. But silent treatment within friendships, relationships, it's very maneuvering. You know me, I don't like to use the word manipulation, because when people manipulate or are manipulating, it's actually a coping strategy for what we're exactly talking about, bad upbringing, for lack of better terms, or maladjusted upbringing. But when people use silent treatment instead of communicating, they use it as a way of solution. A lot of times people that do silent treatment, they use that as a tactic to control, and it's a solution in their mind that if I can just be silent and everything stops, and it will make it better, because then it will go away. But what it's doing to the other people that you're doing it to, it's emotionally punishing them, because it's a punitive direct hit at the other person of saying, I'm not willing to work with you. I'm not willing to talk to you. I'm not willing to share in this experience. I'm willing to back out in hopes that you'll shut up. How's that for being honest, right?
Yeah.
And so the opposite of that is, in my field is like, let's work to reclaim your voice and your empowerment. But if you don't have someone that's willing to work with you because they give you silent treatment as a way to control things by walking away, or this is one of the things that happens with sometimes in therapy. I'm on a thing right now about like really being like, there's a lot of therapists that do not do great work, unfortunately. Right. And you can say I don't, but I mean, my clients would differ.
Yeah.
But you cannot sit there and tell clients that or tell your patients that they should walk away from someone and not engage with conversation, and then not come back to it, and then give them silent treatment, essentially, because that's what you're giving permission for. And I hear a lot of clients who've been with other therapists who'll come in and say that, oh, I had a therapist that told me and my wife, or me and my girlfriend, or whatever it was, that when it gets bad, just walk away. Okay. You have to flesh that out. There's techniques around. We don't just walk away. We don't,
Yeah.
and then we don't give silent treatment. Silent treatment just builds resentment. I mean, I grew up in family that would do silent treatment, and it was like, some of my most vivid memories are like during the silent treatment times over what those things were about. So stupid, but it was a way to stop and control.
So how do you establish your boundaries in those cases where you just...
Well, so here's the thing.
The conversation is no longer productive.
By the time silent treatment starts becoming a tactic in the relationship,
yep,
it's too far into that. You have to try to catch it soon. And that's the hard part, and is being able to back it down to like a base level of where it started from, when it started. Silent treatment, I think it should be added into like the 4 horsemen of the divorce piece, because when you're talking about friendships, I mean, and so when I talk divorce, I talk friendship divorce, I talk, it's just divorcing from someone, right? When you give silent treatment, you're at a point where you're so contemptuous and so withdrawn that what are we doing? Like, if that's the tactic that you have to use, instead of just like facing it and talking about it, or whatever it is, and resolving it out. But so many people have been raised, going back to your point, so many people have been raised to avoid and not talk about things and sweep it under the rug. I was sitting with a client last week, and they were laughing about their own metaphor of like using the broom, like, oh, the broom has no more bristles left because they've swept so much under the rug, and now all the bristles are under the rug, and there's a big pile. Because they it's, I'll say it's like my traditional Irish family. No one talks about it. Silent. So it's the silent treatment in a different way. It's not used as punishment. It's just like, we don't talk about it, which is similar, but not really. It's more like the silent treatment of like, I don't like that going back to my first point, I don't like that you've given me feedback. So now I'm going to punish you by ignoring you. And when I want to talk to you about it, I will, but I won't want to talk about it. So I'll come back and talk to you about like food, or I'll talk to you about like, where do you want to go for dinner, or the weather. Like, that is not, that's not sustainable, reasonable, rational. It's not healthy. It's not going to work.
You're talking about key items though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where it becomes a problem.
Yes.
I'm not talking like, I don't know.
What?
The evaluation of a character on a TV show.
Oh yeah, no. We're talking like
about systemic problems, systemic issues,
right? When we're talking about like an overall thing that makes like the month of you not go well, or the year of you, like that you're always contemplating, like, what am I doing? Why am I in this friendship? Why am I in this relationship? What am I like? I'm getting bamboozled, essentially.
You can't withdraw from those conversations,
right? And people do, and that's a style that happens in a lot of couples and a lot of friendships too. I mean, friendships wear the test of time longer because the ante isn't as big, because they don't have the legality of a marriage, or they don't have kids, or they don't have all those things. But certainly in relationships are, that's why there's such a push in the past, I would say at least 5 to 10 years, about like really looking at your toxic negative patterns of people in your life and your families, and how to distance yourself. I always call it, I love you, but I love you from afar, right? Because there's these pieces to it, right? It's just like, no, this is not acceptable to give someone silent treatment, or to be angry and resentful. That means you haven't. I always say to clients that the other person, if they're not sitting there in the room, is, and if I know them, that's different. If I don't know them, I always say, you know what, I don't know that person, obviously I can't say, but what I can imagine is that they haven't done their own work, and they're dealing with their own family dynamic issues that keep coming up, that you and they keep triggering, and you're just getting the barrel and the brunt of it. Unfortunately, it's hard to live through that. So my workaround around silent treatment is in the year of you. If someone's giving you silent treatment in your family or something like that, you do not grovel, you do not beg, you do not look for like them to break. You literally just move along, and you do you. You have to do you. You can't wait for it to come back to you,
Right.
because the likelihood is that they're not going to come back to you. They're not going to talk about that thing. They're going to come back and talk about the weather or food or what's for dinner and where are we going and something else. And if you bring it up, you're going to go right back into the same pattern. And that's not because of you necessarily. It could be. It's more likely about something that's happening in the other person. They just can't do it. They don't know how to do it. They don't want to do it. And it also can speak to the value they have about you. They might not value you as a partner or as a friend or whatever to give you that conversation.
Yep.
You know, which leads me to my next one: guilt tripping.
Guilt tripping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Guilt tripping is such a common thing. Everybody, I mean, it's like a habit. I mean, seriously.
Yep.
You have to really have lived under the rocks to not have either guilt tripped someone or been guilt tripped, right? And it's about needs, a person's needs. You know, your needs are valid and they are not a burden. And to confidently guide yourself into a space where you do not have to tolerate guilt and guilt tripping. So I always say, you know me, I don't get guilt tripped. I used to, and because I grew up in an environment where guilt was like, it was like, you know, the side on the plate of dinner is like, it came with, here's your steak with your guilt. Yeah. Here's your guilt with your pie. Yep. You know, so guilt and shame are very different. Shame is, you're born, you have the capacity to have shame. It's like that inbred. Oh, it's not inbred. It's innately there, like that you feel, I am bad, I am good, right? Yep. We learn that, right? And we learn to build it over time, and it's embedded in us. That was funny. I said inbred. Oh boy. But when we talk about guilt is a very different word. And the fact that it has a different meaning. What happens is we are trained into being guilted in many different ways, but the same, in that it's not an actual I am bad. It's I perceive that I am not doing the right thing. I perceive that you might be upset with me if you think I did the wrong thing or the thing you didn't like. If I took care of my needs and didn't take care of your needs, and you are mad at me because I did that, if I've been guilted enough over my first 5-6 years of my life by you didn't choose the right thing, or you didn't, you know, do the right thing. And, you know, you get that side eye, like, oh, how disappointed that person is in
Yep.
you. And you really integrate that into your whole life and into your brain. That perception over time stays with you, that you're always feeling like you've done something, or you're being perceived as doing something. And that's the guilt. So people often will get so stuck in feeling guilty, like they will get paralyzed and debilitated, that if they can't, I'm trying to think of the right word. If they can't find a balance out for them to still get the other person's needs met, they will sacrifice theirs just to not feel guilty.
Yep.
You know, like being able to say, no to something, or someone saying, I asked someone a few weeks ago, what do you need right now? A family member. And they were like, you know what? We actually just need some space, and like for everybody to just go home. Now, if I was 20, I would have been like, oh my God, I'm so guilty. I overstayed. I was like, of course, like that's not even, it didn't even register, other than to keep it in mind, because it's a great example of, you can have a choice there to feel like you've done something wrong, or you're just respecting someone's boundaries because they're valid and they're not a burden. Like, yeah, like that. And it's
about what they're facing, not what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. And it's not about you, but people personalize it and think that that's a judgment on you or the relationship, or that someone doesn't like you. And that feeds into that self-esteem and self-worth thing of like, okay, if I don't do this thing and I always put other people first and I always prioritize all these other things, I will spare myself from feeling guilty.
You touched upon
it. It's not true.
It's probably the primary parenting technique.
Oh, yeah.
So whenever that happens in your adult life, it triggers what you lived when you were younger.
Exactly. And that's why
Yeah.
so many people that are in their adult life as my patients have that piece to them. There's always that, oh, I could never say that, or I could never do that, or they'd be so upset if I didn't show, or if I said no. And I do things out of obligation, not because I want to. And that's one of the big things I see a lot, is that people do things for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
They do it because they feel guilty, or they're going to feel guilty because they think that the other people's needs are way more important than theirs. So they'll work themselves up in a tizzy to change their schedules around, to do all kinds of things to make it so that they aren't a burden. But at the end of the day, I can't tell you how many times in 30 years I've said to people, you sacrifice your integrity of who you are constantly for that of others. And you know what? They don't
feel that way.
They don't feel
a lot that way about you.
They don't feel that. Some do. I can say
course,
some do, but most people don't. They just don't feel that way, and they don't care. However, when we talk about families, right, there is a different dynamic, right? If we're talking friendships and things like that, there's one thing. But when we're talking about like families, that the holiday thing comes up a lot. And I had a client a couple weeks ago talking about like, oh, birthdays are a very big thing. And I'm of the mind that birthdays, I'm birthday week, birthday month. So the whole month of January is my birthday, right? And the reason why I kind of adopted that, and I talked about it back in the year of you when we first started in January. I said it's kind of funny and people will do that, but it's actually really important, because so many people, if you have lots of people in your life or you only have a few, you don't always get to celebrate your birthday on your day of the day of birth. And why does it matter if you get together with people that you love or you like or you find the common bond with? What does it matter if you're celebrating on the actual day or some other day? It comes up every year for people with like the holidays, for Christmas or Hanukkah. Hanukkah's a little easier because there's so many days people can split it. But with Christmas, people get really ticked off about the fact that
to that really annoys me.
It's like the adherence to that day. And my dad always would tell my mother, what does it matter? It's just we can celebrate on it. But she was old school. She is old school, and they're old school. And a lot of people are like, the daughter has to be at the parents' house and everybody has to come there. And I'm of the mind, and also psychology would back me of, those holidays are for kids. If you have kids, they get to do their thing and stay in their own home. So I'm always a promoter of like, if you've got kids, you don't need to go to your in-laws or your like, they can come to you. And if not, oh, well, don't have to feel guilty about that, because you're going to take care of the needs that are present, that are the most important.
We'll see you next weekend.
It's the priority, or the next day even, right? Or 2 days later, or what, but people get into this thing of like, oh, I don't want my mother to be mad at me. I don't want my aunts to be mad. Like, you're living your whole life under this guilt thing. And why? Like for doing something like that, or you feel guilty, and it goes back to the beginning when I said sometimes people feel guilt when they don't have to, because it's really a perception.
Right.
They perceive that they're going to feel that way because they have such that comes from low self-esteem, from other things that have built up, that when they get guilted, let's say, or they perceive that they're being guilted, they immediately like fall apart and can't just do the right thing for themselves. They have to put themselves 10 paces back on the totem pole, because
plus that spotlight effect. They think it's about them.
Yes.
And for many people, people can be disappointed, but they don't hold it against them.
Some.
Yeah, some. Obviously,
right.
Yeah,
and I think that, right. So the majority, I think, is that is true for it. But then there's, what I see often is the people that it is held. It's the people that, that struggle more with that because it is held in their space, in their face about, how those things are. They could never imagine, because they get caught up in, oh, I said the wrong thing and now I'm going to be in trouble and they're going to be upset and they're going to tell me about it and all these things. It's like, no. And if they do, you just go, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But it's hard. I would
see a silent trading idea.
Well, you're not going to go silent, but there's not much you can say when someone says, well, I don't like the fact that you didn't do blah, blah, blah when I wanted you to. It's like, well, sometimes you can't.
Yep.
You just have to, be understanding and not I think the big piece of that is do not take it personally. But that is one of the hardest things in human nature, is to not take things personally, because we are such a culture in general of, you must not like me, or you must be upset with me, or you must something,
because your personality was probably chiseled in guilt.
Exactly.
Probably the way it was constructed.
Right. Guilt and or shame or both.
Yeah.
Right. Which is because when you have guilt and shame in childhood, those are the underpinnings and the grounding and foundation for addiction, because that's the codependent. You build codependent relationships because I need you to need me to need you starts right at the beginning. And if you don't get your needs met, which is what happens with people, children start. People, I love when I have clients that are like, I didn't have an addiction until I was in my 20s. Yes, you did. You had it before that. You just didn't have it in the way that it didn't come out as alcohol or gambling or sex or like the thing. That's
you
just
didn't have access to your.
That's just the symptom of the problem. The problem started way before, and people are always like, no, because I hurt my back, and then no, you're predisposed to having the addiction issue way before you hurt your back in football or way before you did whatever thing it was.
Which is why detox isn't a fix.
Right.
It's a treatment. It's not a
fix. Detox is just to get you back up on your feet. So the problem that's the symptom only is put at bay for a temporary. If you don't do the work on what started the problem, which is, you hurt your back, but we have to go beyond that. We have to go way back before that of like, how do you handle pain? How do you handle people looking at you saying like you can't play football anymore? How do you have to be out of work for 6 months, or that you're going to be lazy? There's messages all embedded in there that are way before you hurt your back, then took the pills that turned you. And people they're very linear in that way, going, nope, it's this. No, it's not, because then they have to look at all the things I'm talking about that they had. They had this abuse stuff going on, this emotional abusive stuff. So codependency starts really early on in life, and it goes talk about guilt. It goes around that guilt thing. I need you to need me to need you. It trains, and those are my words. I need you to need me to need you. So therefore, I'm going to train you when you're 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 that you are dependent on me. And when you're not dependent on me and you're not sure of yourself, what are you going to do to self-soothe that? So if you don't have the skill and you don't have the technique, and you've been silent treated and you've been guilted and you've been criticized, and you perceive all that, and it is in fact maybe true, but also you could be adding the perception to it. You're letting, I tell people, you're in lieu of your gaslighter being in front of you, you gaslight yourself.
Yeah.
It's a self-sabotage. Yep. It's the self-gaslighting, right? So and that's a very big problem. Now, let me add on to, so this doesn't happen as often in my practice, but I do bring it up, and I'll just give it a little bit, because I don't see this as often. I don't know if it's because people are so savvy to this particular tactic as a form of abuse, but the controlling thing of like what you wear, what you say, what you do, because, people will use that as like, it's because I love you, like, things like that. It's fear disguised as caring. And so you have to try to rediscover your own freedom. But I don't see as many people with that. So I loosely talk about it, because I don't hear people talking about being controlled in that way as much as I used to. Like in the beginning of my career, I used to see a lot more people come in and be like, I'm criticized, or I'm controlled for, why did you say that? Or why did you do that? Or why are you wearing that? I don't see that as much anymore. I don't know if you see it out in the world, but I just don't see and hear that as much. That could be also a self-selected part of my population, because I work with, I work with families, and I work with groups, and I work with athletes, and I work with like kind of the mainstream too. So I just don't see
I see a lot of judgment.
Well, I see a lot of judgment in general. I mean, judgment's always there, but I don't see it in that same way of, like I have one client who has a parent who this client's in her late 30s, and her mother still says things like, "Oh, you're going to wear that." Like I attribute that to, that's the training of the when she was younger, and and that's what she used. It's a control tactic.
Yeah.
It's a way of putting fear into the person, of like, it's a value judgment on them of like,
the older parent is protecting their place in their lives, right? Or staking out their place in their lives.
Right. Or it's just like someone being like,
I'm not irrelevant anymore. I still
have relevance because I can still control you by saying this thing to make you feel bad, like, oh, you're going to wear that to the wedding, that, the emphasis on the word that, like, well, yeah, or that color, or, but I don't hear it quite as often, but it's certainly out there. And I would say it's not as much in the contemporary generations that I've seen. That doesn't mean it's not there, but I see it much more in the older, and by older, I mean only like 30 and 40-year-olds. I see it in that, but then in younger, I don't see that, so I don't see the phrases used. There's a fun thing I watch sometimes on TikTok. Like moms and dads will say, they'll get their kids sitting next to you. I don't know if you've seen these in a reel, and they'll get the kid, they have like a list of 10 phrases, and they'll say to the kid, fill in the blank. And they'll start going, and they'll say, kids should be, and then, they'll say kids should be seen. And then, and most of the kids nowadays will come out with like, they want the fill in. And now when we grew up, it was kids should be seen, not heard. Right.
Yeah.
Over and over again. And they're very touching videos that you see. This kids should be seen. And the kids will say things like, and fed and loved and hugged and given chores and money for doing chores, like these very healthy responses. And I know that when we were growing up, and even the generation in between, like what I'm seeing now and before, those kids would have known those phrases, or, and now it's very lovely. So they usually have 5 or 10 of those questions, those things that people say of, I'll give you something. And then the kid will say, because you've been good today, or because you're doing a great job, or because I'm proud of you. But we know I'll give you something to cry about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting to see. And I think that's such a social psychological difference that is so stark as a reminder of what was and what is now. And you see a lot more healthy, non-toxic parenting in that way.
Yeah.
And I even see it in my practice that kids would have no idea. Like I'll ask them sometimes because of that TikTok I've seen. I'm like, do you know what the phrase blah, blah, blah means? And they're like, no, never heard of that. Like, or they just never even fathomed that would be something that their parent would say. So I think that's good. So the trending is there.
I think generally speaking, families, and I'm going to say some generalities here, and you can catch me if I'm out.
Yeah.
Generally, families getting smaller.
Yes.
Than our generations. They're getting closer together in age. In other words, if I was the youngest in my family, I don't know where you fell on the.
Well, I was number one and only.
One and only, okay.
Yes.
But parents were probably older.
Nope.
No?
Mine weren't.
No, young?
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like if parents are closer in age to
they weren't
kids,
young as in like teenagers, but they were in their 20s.
In their 20s. Yeah. Seems like nowadays, when that's the dynamic, it's like the parent-child relationship is different. They want to be friends. They want to be.
Yeah, I mean, I do see that, but that's usually but you still don't, but with those relationships, I don't see as healthy as I do with the people that have like those like things going on, even in my office with like the conversations that parents have. The ones that want to be friends usually have there's bigger problems. There's actual problems that I can identify going on. I don't, like not just like a little anxiety, not to minimize anxiety, but when you see parents who are trying to be friends, I see a lot more fallout of unhealthy habits, like unhealthy self-soothing, more addiction, not necessarily alcohol, but of like food.
When you've got 4 kids or 5 kids, you're going to say kids should be seen and not heard. Parents today just aren't going to say that.
Right.
Especially with the kid that they want to be friends with and want to be validated with.
I mean, absolutely, that could be. I haven't thought of it that way.
Yeah.
I chalk up those phrases of old time to just being so. It was that traditional, very male female role, very patriarch versus matriarch, very much about children are a burden to like fathers, and they're supposed to be the mother's responsibility. I mean, there's a lot that goes into
especially
a lot of
the
those
4th, 5th, and 6th.
those phrases. And and it's just like I think it's a very different lifestyle now. But I do think that you're right about the friendship thing, that there's a lot of parents out there that unfortunately go into what we call the indulgent and the permissive parenting styles, which there's 4 different styles, and those are 2 of there's three that are really not great producers of like healthy outcomes for attachments. And those are two of them, because they're being friends with your kid when they're young is not helping them be a productive, successful, well-rounded in terms of like emotionally stable person, because it usually comes with a lot of baggage of the parent, overcompensating for their own stuff that they didn't have or they did have, and doing other things that, you know, and without their self-awareness, it brings to it's another level of another level of emotional neglect. I won't say abuse, but it's an emotional neglect to do that to your kid, because you are not their friend. And then it turns into when, you know, you have a 15 and 16-year-old being, or even an 18 or 20-year-old going, you know, screw you, you know, like, because there's no respect there, because you've become their friend and they don't respect you as a parent. They don't respect you as as a person who has help that you can impart with them, because you have wisdom and knowledge over time. You're just a peer to them that I don't give a shit what you say, right? To be blunt, right? So, and it comes that way. And I think, it goes into another point that I was going to make about another pattern is when people blame others for their bad behavior. That pattern that you're talking about in that next like little snippet of mine is kids who become adults who are friends. They'll blame other people for their, you know, or the parent will blame, because they've gotten into that role of being.
Well, that's societal. Everyone's a victim.
Yeah. It's like, you're not responsible for someone else's temper and toxicity, but yet you created the environment to make it temperamental and toxic. And, you have to like to get healthy around that. You have to clear guilt, you have to clear shame, and you have to step into your own truth, so you're not stuck in the pattern of like being blamed for things because, you know, you were friends with your parent. Now, that does not mean you shouldn't have, there's a balance here, because you should have friendship with your parent, because that's where I love it when I see kids who will go to their parents and talk to them about anything and everything and feel comfortable. But then there's a level of like also parents who then go and tell their kids everything. And and that's, you know, you see this a lot in divorces, right? Parental alienation. We have one parent, and I'm talking like adult kids. You've got like 20-year-olds and like teenagers and like maybe like a tweener or something. And you've got like a range of a couple kids in the house and then out of the house in college. And you've got a potential divorce or a divorce going on, and you've got one parent just fully bombarding all of it to the kids, and then the other parents on, you know, they're doing their healthy thing.
Right.
I see that all the time, and that's parental alienation, because what you're doing is you're doing all the things I'm talking about. You're essentially, you know, one of the words I would use obviously in this list is gaslighting is one of the patterns. You're gaslighting to get control over the situation by using all the tactics on the list to get that other parent to look bad so that you can look good and then you use the kids as the tool to get to what you need without, you know, using your own thing. And it's whether your kid is 25 or they're 20 or they're 15 or they're 12, your marital information and what's going on until you're divorced and until you're way past it and they're adults and you're having your own separate relationships with them, should not be brought into like their realm. They should have no impact in terms of like talking to either of you as the parents about your decisions. Right. You should not be bringing it to them and asking for advice. You should not be talking about anything about that person with the other with the other kid. Like, it just, you know, and using adult children to straddle the fence to be able to be the mediator, or using pets. I had someone this morning text me about something going on with like something in their divorce decree about a pet. You know, it's like you can't use that to maneuver to get your way, because it goes back into abusive control. It's a toxic piece.
Well, that's putting your needs in front of your kid's benefit, which is breaking rule 1.
Right. And it's, you know, people like, well, they're, you know, like, well, they're 20 or they're, you know, no. They don't get to know the details of your marriage. They don't get to know the details of your divorce. If you're so inclined to tell them that later in life, or you're doing it separately, fine, but not to use as a tactic to get to get them, you're culling them into you. You're alienating the other parent
Using
just for
them
your
as a
own.
chess piece.
Yes, that's an abusive.
Yep.
It's also neglectful on your part. It's wreaking havoc. It's just not a nice thing to do.
And it undermines their life because they have to have a relationship with the other parent.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that they don't want, this is where the narcissistic piece comes in that I've talked about before. A lot of times they don't want they don't want you as the child, even though you're an adult. They don't want you to have a relationship with them because they're so damaged.
Yep.
That they don't want that, because then that threatens them. And if you have that with them, then what's left for you? Because you feel so insecure, you don't understand that they can both exist and you can be okay. But people work so hard at trying to alienate the other person out. And it's like, how do you live your best life when you're doing that? Because there's a lot of mental energy to have to put into that.
Yep.
I'm looking at my list, and I'm not going to get all of them.
We're here every week.
I know, but so, and I'm just on a little bit of a timeline today. So, as I've been for the last couple of weeks, but because I have things.
Yes. Well, you have emergencies?
Yeah. Going to hell. I'm going to hell. That just baffles my mind. Don't get me started. Okay.
Set it down.
I know. Set it. Put it away.
Yep.
Let it float down the river.
Watch it float by.
Float it right down the river like a big turd.
Okay.
Let me just think of the one I want to probably end with today and then I can come back to the list of the month of July for you guys. I would say that using love as a weapon, because I'll kind of go in line with what we were just talking about. Using love as a weapon. If you loved me, you'd.
Yep.
Blah, 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 right? Real love does not come with strings. It does not come with shame. It does not come with guilt, right? I think I want to say it was Meryl Streep or someone like Meryl Streep years ago. I heard one of them quote, I think it was her quote, like, love is not being afraid to fail.
Yeah.
And I think it was her. I'll have to go back. But it stuck out to me as being like, yeah, that is important, because you don't have to you don't have to use love as a weapon, and people weaponize all the time. But I did this for you. If you love me, you would know. That's a very common couples one, right? If you love me, you would know. Yes. Now to the point. If you say, if you love me, you would know, like you have to guess the mind game, that's one thing. But if you've told your partner or you've told a friend, like, hey, you've known me for 20 years and I don't do blah, 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 or I don't eat red meat, right?
Yep.
If John cooks, which by the way, he says to me sometimes, would you like a steak? I look at him like, but I don't say, if you love me, you would. Sometimes when I'm annoyed at that, I'll be like, I don't eat red meat right now. But a little different. But when you use, if you, the weaponizing of it and the turning around of it, it's very narcissistic to do that to someone. You're utilizing information to try to one up on the person, to just be like, these come back to the controlling things about like how to control someone. And that's a fear-based thing, because it's making you feel like you're less than, like, if you love me, and clearly you don't, because you don't know what's going on. So you're screwed, I mean, so I think that's, I'm going to return as the first one next week on that, to kind of follow up with the weaponization of your children towards you in things, or the weaponization of love and saying how you feel is such a big thing. And that's where I think I'd emphasize, when you tell someone, when I say to you, I have hurt feelings, and you tell me you have hurt feelings, and then it's a competition, you're weaponizing that love right there. That hurt me when you said that. Yeah, well, when you say things, it hurts me too. That's weaponizing love. That's not just saying, oh my gosh, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to do that, and I'm going to correct that, or that this is what I meant to say, or this is what I meant by it. Instead, what people do is go into the whole thing I just said, and they go in and they silent treatment it, or they belittle it, or they mock it, or they gaslight it, which I didn't talk about. But they do all these things instead of just, which also weaponizes it even more, because instead of just owning it and taking accountability, the narcissistic piece comes in, which is that ego hit of like, I'm not going to be wrong. I'm not going to be in this position. I already feel bad enough. And what they do is they turn all of their own stuff. It's like an inward puking onto you of all their own stuff of like, oh, you say I hurt you, so now I'm going to hurt you. I am going to hurt you because you hurt me by telling me that. So we will go further with that, because in order to live in the year of you, and if you're in any of those patterns, which some people are in all of them, but everybody's got at least one or two of them in there. There's just no escaping. I mean, I have like 15 points, and I could have kept going in my little list because I had so much, time on my hands to make sure I could handle things over the weekend. Don't say
no emergencies this week.
Actually, I did have one, and I took care of it. Thank you very much. Over the weekend.
Okay.
You know why? Because I made time.
This is funny. I like this.
But it's true, though. I did.
It's a nice button to just push whenever I want.
But it's so funny, though, because it's so present in my mind about the fact that I made a list, because it pushed my button so much. I made a list of, I actually have answered a lot of emergencies. Not only have I answered them and done, I've showed up at hospitals. I've driven places on the side of the road to meet people who are having panic attacks, and then met ambulances places because I've called for them. Like, and if I was a man, I wouldn't have been asked the question, but nonetheless. Lou, you get me. You get where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
and only you could know around this, because that's all I can say. But it's just like, I don't know. I think that people assume, like, I don't know what people assume. I go into mode of like, I'm not a psychologist anymore.
People can assume that was an idiot too. It's just as easy.
They were thinking I'm an idiot?
No, that person who said it was an idiot.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I would be remiss to say that, so I won't say that at this juncture.
Well, it was a silly statement.
It was a question.
Yeah, silly question.
But it wasn't asked once, it was asked multiple times. And I was, anyway. Yes. Oh, there's so many other things. But I'm sitting here, I'm like, look, I'm playing with a paperclip going.
Yep.
Sometimes the other thing I'm going to say is, it's in reference to what we're talking about on the underside of this, but it also references today, and I'm going to use it now. When we are at a point where we end up abusing people and we don't realize it, I'm going to give that out there. We don't realize it. It emboldens the abuser more. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, sure. if you don't like see it, and you don't like realize it, and you don't do something about it in the right way, or you correct it and you be like, oh, I get it. You're actually just emboldening the whole process more to get a person abused. Like if you have a kid in a situation, or you know what I mean? Or like if you're just
making them more vulnerable,
you just make them more vulnerable to a situation because you got your own stuff in the way.
Yep.
And I'm talking to you through my face.
Talking to me?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know.
So I know you know.
I
know you know. And if you know, you know. So,
I
know. So, okay. So on that note, I am going to come back, and I'm going to do some more points about how to live your best life and get out of those toxic patterns next week in July, as we are in the midpoint of the year. You guys have a fantastic week. Enjoy the weather and be safe out there.